college admission, college advising world. Some of you have met Mr. Van Buskirk, others have not, but we have some time with him here this afternoon, and he is our Follin speaker series for today, which is Tuesday, February the 20th, 2018. We do have a mixed group of students. We have some 8th graders and 9th graders. We have juniors and sophomores who have already heard briefly from Mr. Van Buskirk just before lunch. And we have seniors in the group. So I'm hoping very much that his remarks, many of them drawn from his book, will be useful and helpful to you. A couple of housekeeping details. After the program, we will make available to all students the URL which will allow you online or on your phone to complete an evaluation of the program that both Mr. Van Buskirk and we will find very helpful. 10th and 11th graders, you will actually, from your advisor over the next week or so, you will actually receive a pocket folder that looks like this with a copy of the evaluation inside and some other materials. So that will be juniors and sophomores, and then seniors and 8th and 9th graders would love to have you complete the evaluation on the URL. That will also connect you to Mr. Van Buskirk's organization, the Best College Fit, where he has a whole slew of great resources for all levels and ages in this process. Some on making final college decisions, some on beginning the process, and everything in between. There are a dozen copies of the book available for sale in the back, and if after the program you would like to purchase a copy of the book, you may charge that to your student account. If there are more than a dozen students who want to buy a copy of the book, please don't panic. We can still make the charge and have it all happen. So, and Mr. Van Buskirk will mail us some copies of the book. We'll make sure that you get them. So at this point, it's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Van Buskirk, founder of Best College Fit, graduate of Bucknell University, former admission officer at both Franklin and Marshall and at Juniata College, where I know at least one senior applied this year, and they visited this fall. And we'll turn it over to Mr. Van Buskirk. Thank you.
It's good to be here this afternoon to talk to you about our futures. Talk about college. Who's ready for college? Everybody, okay. If I had your parents here right now, I'd ask them who's ready to send somebody to college. And you know what all the parents say, yep, I'm ready to send you to college. Well, today we're going to help you understand how you can get from where you are to where you want to be. And where are you? You're here at the Webb School doing your thing. Working hard, getting good grades, we hope, and doing things outside of the classroom that give you joy in life. And I suspect you're looking around the corner in your life to see that college is coming. It won't be long. College will be here soon. Oh, by the way, where are the seniors? How many of you have been to at least one college? See, it's coming, and you're feeling pretty good about that, right? Cool. Where are the juniors? Okay. Next year, this time, you're going to be feeling better about that. Sophomores? Over on that side, freshmen? Over here, 8th graders? Excellent. This is something that's going to happen very quickly in your lives. This whole college process is going to come and it's going to go. And what we want to do today is help you understand how to make the best use of your time here at the Webb School so that when it's time for you to make that final choice of a college, you're ready to go. So getting from where you are to where you want to be is the title of the program. Now there are 5 points that we're going to talk about today. So I'm going to give you that outline right up front. Keys to success will be, number 1, you need to know yourself. Number 2, you need to know what you're getting into. Number 3, you need to make good choices. And 4, tell your story. Number 5, believe in yourself. We're going to go through each of these real quickly and try to give you some sense, a big overview of what's coming. Now the seniors are going to say, yep, been there, done that. And the rest of you are going to think, all right, it's coming quickly. So this is a conversation, frankly, that a lot of people have said to me, you know what, Peter, this conversation works whether you're applying to college, to graduate school, for a job, whatever, but these keys to success are applicable in many different ways in life. So let's get started with knowing yourself. It begins with 2 questions you need to be thinking about. 2 questions. The first one is pretty straightforward, pretty simple. Why do you want to go to college? Now, I don't know if you've thought about that or not. Some of you are sitting there saying, do I really need to know? I think it's a pretty good idea. Some of you might be saying, well, doesn't everybody go to college? If I don't go to college, I'm going to be left behind. You know what? Not everybody goes to college. And even if everybody went to college, is that really a good answer for you? Oh, but you don't know my parents. They're going to make me go to college. How many of you have parents who are going to make you go to college? And how's that working for you? You want to spend 4 years of your lives on a college campus because somebody says you're going, or because you want to be there? In life, you understand the difference, don't you? You'd much rather do things because you want to do them than because you have to do them. Is that a fair assessment? Now here's a little newsflash for you. You do not have to go to college. You can graduate from Webb school, get a job. You can travel, you can work, you can do volunteer things in the community. You can hang out at home and watch Netflix all day. We're not going to do that. Not going to do that. But I want you to understand that college must be, for each one of you, a considered choice. Something you embrace because of what it can mean for the rest of your life. So why would you go to college? The reason I mention this is very important. In our country, barely half of the students who start college will ever finish. Now think about that. If you're about ready to head off on this college adventure and the probability of you finishing isn't that great, 55%, I think it makes sense to talk about this question about why you want to go. Don't allow college to be a default option in your life. Don't allow it to be something you back into. Reach out for it. Embrace it. So why would you go? The second question I want you to think about is related. What are 3 things you want to make sure you accomplish before you graduate from college? Not high school, but college. Now, I have 3 kids, and my kids all went to college. They kind of did it despite me, because the old man, dean of admission. Can you imagine being a college applicant and your dad's the dean of admission, and he's a helicopter dad at that? My kids didn't have a chance, at least with me, but they made it work for themselves. Now, my son was looking at colleges, and he was really laid back. Even in his senior year, it was hard to tell that he had any college thoughts in his head at all. People who knew him would approach him and say, so you really going to go to college? Yep. Well, where do you think you want to go? Oh, I don't know, I just want to go to a big school in the city. That's nice, why would you do that? Well, that's where the action is, he would say. Okay, you can understand my nervousness, perhaps. I'm not thinking about 4 years of tuition to support the action. So we would have to have a conversation. And one day I said to my son, can we talk? Because I'd really like to know what's going on inside of your head. He said, sure, Dad. I asked him the question. What are 3 things that you want to make sure you accomplish before you graduate from college? Now, he humored me. He thought about it. And then he said, Dad, I want to go someplace where I can get a good education. Can't tell you how delighted I was to hear that. I wasn't sure that was on his radar screen at all. And then I had to bite my tongue because, you know, the helicopter dads, we have the answers. We know what a good education looks like. We know where you can find it. Instead, I took a deep breath and a big chance, and I said, good answer. How will you know that place is offering you a good education? What will that feel like? What will that look like to you? And students, I want you to think about that. Seniors, I want you to think about that. You're almost to the finish line. And you need to be asking yourself, when you make final decisions about colleges, what's going to really work best for me? So I asked my son, what's going to work best for you? What's that education going to look like? He said, well, I want to go someplace where I can learn lots of stuff. I want to be able to ask questions, he said. I want the professors to know my name. I want to feel like I'm part of what's going on at that school. Do you understand what he's beginning to do here? He's beginning to give some definition to the kind of learning environment that might make sense to him. And then he said, I want to go someplace where I can study chemistry. I really like that a lot. And I said, you want to learn about chemistry in the lecture hall? Fill this space with students and teach chemistry. It happens that way on university campuses every day. Or I said, do you want to learn about chemistry in the laboratory? Oh, no, Dad. He said, I want to go someplace where we can pour the chemicals and stir things up. I want to see what happens next. And I'll bet a lot of you think about learning that way too, don't you? You spend your days watching, listening, absorbing information, just waiting for an opportunity to stir things up and see what happens next. And then he said, I want to go someplace where I can play my trumpet. Now, the young man's a good trumpet player. He was not looking for a conservatory, but he wasn't ready to quit. He wanted a band, an orchestra, an opportunity to play his trumpet in college. And that was the end of our conversation. But I want you to consider what just happened. For the first time in his 17 years, this young man had heard an articulation of his priorities. And the revelation to him was this. That articulation was not coming from the old man. He was hearing from his own lips the I want statements that began to give definition and direction to his college thoughts. This wasn't about me, it was about him. Wow. He began to feel a sense of ownership. He gave the process direction. He was doing things for himself. And I mention this because it's so important for you to have those I want moments. When you make that final choice of a college, you need to be thinking about I want. Then it becomes all about you. So it begins with having this reflective conversation. If you're looking at colleges right now, and you know them by name, and you know them by reputation, but you don't know them according to how you're going to function best in college, according to what you want to get out of the experience, you're setting yourself up to be one of the 45% who doesn't finish. So let's start with getting to know yourself. Now, once you know yourself, you can focus on the college and look for fit. I believe there are 5 elements of a good college fit. First one is this. The best college for you will provide a program of study that meets your needs. This is easy, right? You want to be an engineer, you find an engineering school. You want to have a business major, that's what you look for. Now, how many of you know exactly what you want to do the rest of your lives? That's right, you have it all figured out. I don't see an awful lot of hands, which suggests to me that this choice of a college could be a little challenging for you because you don't know what you want to do. You're okay. You really are. In fact, if you're 14, 15, 16, 17 years old and you don't know what you want to do for the rest of your life, you're normal. You really are. And you know what else? 2/3 of students in college, not in high school, in college, 2/3 of them change their mind about their major and their career choice at least once. Half of them do it twice. Now, the thing that you need to be considering if you're uncertain is look for colleges that will give you an opportunity to explore, to check things out before you make decisions. The mistake some of you will make is this. You'll choose to go to a university. On the university application, there's going to be a question that says, what's your major? Tell us now. What's your major? You go to your parents and you say, what should I put here? I don't know what I want to do. My question is this. Why would you apply? Why would you apply to an institution that's forcing you to make a lifelong decision before you're ready? It's not a good fit. Instead, look for places that will give you an opportunity to explore, to check things out before you have to make commitments. The next element of a good fit is this. You want to find a place that provides a style of instruction consistent with the way you like to learn. Let's pause on this for a second. Do we all process the same information the same way? We hear the same lecture, we read the same book, but we process it differently. Do you think all of these colleges and universities teach the same thing the same way? Absolutely not. Well, they teach biology, they teach history, they teach English, but not the same way. It would make sense to me for you to figure out how you like to learn. So here are some things to consider. Would you rather learn history from the lecture or in the seminar room where you can talk about it? Would you rather learn biology from the book or from the laboratory? Do you understand? You can get an A anyway from the book, the lecture, the lab. You can get an A, but it's going to feel much different to you according to where you're comfortable. I want to ask you another question. I want to have some fun with this with you. If a teacher were to say to you at the end of this year, forget all the stuff you've done all year, all the grades you've gotten, we're going to throw them out. You get to decide how you are graded for the whole year. And to get a grade for the whole year, you can take a test, you can write a paper, you can do a project. Get a grade for the whole year. How many of you would choose to take the test? Not many test takers in the group. Why would you choose the test, man? It's easiest for you, right? Who else? Why would you take the test?
I would assume it would be an accurate test of knowledge, considering you would.
Okay, so it's an accurate test of knowledge and you can prepare from there, right? Why would you take the test? I'm thinking this is going to take a while. It's easier for you. Cool. How many of you would rather write paper? Now you're nervous when you're not going to call people. Now, come on. I know there are more than 7 writers in the room. Why would you choose to write a paper? It's your strong, don't say you're only, it is your strong suit, okay? Why would you choose a paper? righty. Who else? Paper. Yes, yes, sir. It can be used contractions. It can be you, right? Anybody else? I want to write paper because. One more. Yes, ma'am. You like writing papers? Very good. How many of you would rather do a project? Now, who wants to tell me why you would do a project? All the hands are going down. Right there, ma'am.
I'm creative, and that's the best way to like show my thoughts.
I am creative. It's the best way to show my strong suit. And that's the hope, yes? You would play to your strength. You like to perform. And yes, sir.
Depending on what the project is, imagination.
Depending on what the project is, imagination can take over. Do you understand the common denominator in all the answers? Each one of you responded with something that sounds like that's what I'm good at. So why not choose a college that provides an instructional environment that engages you in places and ways that you're good at? That makes sense. Now the mistake some of you are going to make is this. If you put your hand up for a project, if you apply to a university that enrolls 8,000, 10,000, 20,000 students, guess what you'll never do? A project. Guess what you will do? A test. Fill in the bubble test a lot. Are you working to your strength if that's the case? Be smart about this. Students don't consider their learning style. They don't understand the marriage of learning style and instruction style. It makes a big difference in terms of how you find success in college. The best college is going to be a place that provides rigor, commensurate with your ability and preparation. Through each year of high school, you prove yourself, you step up, you move to the next level. You get to this level and at the end of your senior year here. If you choose to enroll in a college that challenges you at that same level, is that going to make sense? That's like another year of high school. Some of you will choose a college that challenges you here. Having a good time, right? But at some point you're going to go home after 2 or 3 semesters and say to mom and dad, you know what, I'm having a good time, but I'm not learning anything. Yeah, your brain's rebelling. Your brain's saying, I can do this. You put me here, I want to be challenged too. And if you can do this at the end of high school and you choose that place, and you get in, you spend 4 years trying to prove you belong. Move to the next level of challenge for you. It will make sense, you will find success, you will become better. The best college is a place that provides a sense of community that feels like home. Now, I've got to ask you the question. You ever feel like letting out a primal scream? Yes. Kind of sounds like this. I got to get out of here. You recognize that? And here can be wherever you are. In school, at home, in your community. But isn't it true that the older you become, the more claustrophobic your world is? Everybody's in your business all the time, right? Telling you what to do. You want some space. You want to make your own decisions. That's natural. Now, I would bet that there's another small voice inside of each of you that sounds like this. What do you think? They feed me. They give me a place to stay. I can drive a car once in a while. My friends live right down the street. And I have a pretty good life right here, right now. Do I really have to leave it? Yep. You cannot live in your parents' home forever. So if you're going to leave, and if college is part of that transition out of your parents' home, why not find a place that feels like home? It will not be home, but it will include people who have shared values and interests, people who will celebrate with you and help you become better. It may not include your best friends from high school, but it will include people who become your best friends for life. Find a place that feels like home, and you will do better as a student. You will find success. And finally, the best college for you is going to be a place that values you for what you have to offer. This is really important, because the place that values you has seen what you've done in life. It's seen what you've done in school. It knows your trajectory into the future. It knows where you're headed. It will simply want to spend 4 years of that trajectory on their campus. Okay? They will admit you. They'll take you. They want you. And they'll use their money to try to get you to come. So if cost and affordability are important to you at all, keep this in mind. Look for places that want you. And they'll take care of you. This is a good fit. You find the fit. You know yourself. You find the fit. Now it's time to apply. And as an applicant, you need to know what you're getting into. Point number 2. I want to share with you real quickly the competition, something that will help you understand the competition. I call it the pyramid of selectivity. Imagine we can put all the colleges in the country on this pyramid, not according to how good they are. We can't really measure that. But according to how hard it is to get in, we can measure that. So imagine this. The further up the pyramid you find a college, the harder it is to get in. And the fewer schools there are that are like that selected. Does that make sense? Up here, a small group of schools admits 1 out of 8. More schools admit 1 out of 4, even more admit half, and most of the schools in the country admit most of the students who apply. The pyramid of selectivity. Oh, and yes, there is indeed a very sharp point up here. Over the last several years, there are about half a dozen schools admitting 1 out of 20. 5% or fewer. Oh, I'm not suggesting that they're the best. I'm telling you they're the hardest to get into. Now, the pyramid is helpful for you in this way. As you begin to plan your college thinking, and seniors, you've been there, you've been doing that, you will have questions that sound like this. How important is? How important is my course selection for next year? How important is my summer activity? How important is that test result? Should I take the subject test? What about the AP? All those questions can be answered here. It depends on where you think you want to go. If you think you want to go to one of these places, everything's important. The big stuff, the little stuff, the stuff you've been reading about, the stuff you've never thought of. It's all important. These other schools look at the same information that these schools see, but they attach different levels of importance to that information according to the pressure they feel to make fine distinctions between great candidates. You understand? A lot of pressure here, not as much pressure as you come down. These are all great schools. It's not a matter of good or bad. It's a matter of pressure to make fine distinctions. Selectivity, how hard is it to get in, is found on the enrollment model. This is information you can find easily. If you know how many students apply, you know how many are accepted, you know roughly how hard it is to get in. The greater the difference between these two schools, the harder it is to get into a college. So this is selectivity. Now, a lot of times when people look at these numbers, they'll say, hey, Peter, you have 8,000 students applying, you can accept 2,000. Why don't you look for the 2,000 good ones? Just take the good ones and let everybody else go. Well, that would work if there are only 2,000 good ones. This is a reality of the competition, folks. At any of these schools on the pyramid, most of the students who apply, and I'm going to go with the big number here, 90% of these guys belong here. 7,200 of these guys belong here. We can't take them. This is what you have to look forward to as you compete for admission. Now, some schools, the difference isn't going to be quite that great. Some schools will be much greater. But this is how we define competition. So, once you begin to look at colleges, what you should be doing is thinking about where on the pyramid you have the best chance of success. Where are you most likely to be accepted? And then you apply. When you apply, admission officers are going to ask 3 basic questions about you. Number 1, can you do the work? Tell you what, guys, if you can't do the work, you will not be admitted because you can't function on our campus. At best, you will be a rental for us. We'll take your money for a semester or 2 and then you're gone. You don't want that to happen. You want to prove to the institution that you can be there for the long haul. So what do we look at to see if you can do the work? This is pretty predictable, and the sophomores and juniors heard some of this conversation earlier. The most important thing, the courses you take. Second, the grades you get. You're creating the opportunity for admission every day as you choose courses and you decide to work at your grades. You choose tough courses, and you don't work very hard, and you don't get good grades, you're killing yourself. You need to choose courses that are appropriate for you and then do as well as you can. And then, of course, scores, test results factor in as well. The good news, I just want to put this out there real quickly for you. The good news is that you have options in this country. You know about the ACT. You know about the SAT. You should know that every college in the country will take either one. You should also know that those tests are different. They are not the same thing under different names. The ACT is a subject-based test designed to measure what you've learned in the classroom. The SAT, according to those of you who've taken it, is a test designed to trick you. My suggestion for younger students, try one of each. See which one you like best. Work to your strength. All right? And when you take the test, take them no more than 3 times. There is research that says that with or without test preparation, you should be able to improve your results from the first to the second test, second to the third test. The research also shows that after the third test, nothing happens. So you keep taking the test, trying to improve your scores. After the third test, nothing's going to happen. The other option I want to share with you that's really important is this. In our country, there are now more than 850 colleges and universities that publicly acknowledge they can make good decisions about whom to admit without test results. They are test optional. My advice is this. If you find yourself looking at a school that is test optional and your scores are at or below their average, why would you send them in? It's not going to help, and it's going to hurt. And if you're thinking, well, they'll assume my scores are low if I don't send them in, you give them too much credit. When I was dean of admission in my school, we went test optional. At the end of the year, we discovered that the average score for the non-submitting students who didn't send in their scores was almost identical to the average score for the submitting student. So if you choose not to send your scores in because they allow you, what do they really know? Not a thing. Fairtest.org. I know you can't take notes with that right now, but fairtest.org is a great website to check out. All those test option schools are there. So, we know you can do the work. The next question is going to be this. If we admit you, what do we get? What do we get? It is the academic piece, the answer to the first question, that puts you into the competition. Now we want to find out what it is you might be able to bring to us that makes us better, that makes you better. So we're looking now at things like talent, music, theater, sports, leadership. We're looking at perspective, the way you've seen the world, from where you've lived, from the experiences you've had, has been important in shaping your personality and your character. Leadership, are you rising to the top of your organization? Are you becoming an officer of a club? Are you becoming the captain of the team? Are you becoming a section leader of a music program? Diversity. Colleges clamor for diversity all the time. I just want to put this footnote out there. Diversity is not simply a matter of ethnic background. Colleges will define diversity more broadly. They will ask this question, and I want you to think about this. Through what set of lens have you seen life? The lens through which you have seen life has influenced your perspective. So maybe you have seen life through the lens of your ethnicity. That's very powerful. And give you a definition of the person you are. Maybe you have seen life through the lens of your social or economic background, or the lens of your spiritual orientation, or the lens of your geographic background. Where you've lived in the world has influenced the way you've seen the world. When you consider diversity this way, you know each one of you has the capacity to bring some element of diversity to a college campus. You really do. But that something doesn't fall out of the sky and hit me on the head. It's something you must know about yourself, so you can share it in the admission process. Question number 3, when we admit you, what is the likelihood that you will enroll? Now this is something that's going to snag you. You're not thinking about this at all. You're thinking about your courses, grade scores, you're thinking about your extracurricular activities. What about this? I just want to tell you, colleges right now already know about you. From the very first day that you pass through the footprint of that institution, they know about you. You've been on their website, you've done a Google search for an engineering program, and their school shows up. They know about you. And the cyber surveillance of you has begun. They add all these contacts that you have with them into a data file, and then they attach values to those contacts, and then they put those values in algorithms that begin to predict the likelihood that you will come. And you're only a freshman, but they know that about you already. Now the good news is they will constantly update that algorithm. So the message to you is stay involved, get engaged with these schools, develop relationships. Demonstrate your interest. College reps come to visit at the Webb school, you listen to them talk. At the end of the talk, you fill out a card that gives you credit for being there. You go to a college night or a college fair, you meet representatives, and they're going to give you a chance to fill out a card. Your arm feels like it's dead, you've been doing cards all night. Fill out the card, it gives you credit for being there. You want to visit campus, because that's the best indicator. The best indicator that you're investing in that relationship is the fact that you show up on their campus. And when you show up on a college campus, make sure you get credit for being there. Go to an admission office, someplace where they got that card. Let them know you've been there. Build relationships. Big way to do this, find out who from the institutions that you like recruits here. I'm not talking about athletic recruiters, I'm talking about admission recruiters. Then as you have important questions about the process, ask them. Let them become experts in your life. And as you share information with them, a relationship begins to develop. And I'll just tell you this, in the admission process at many schools, familiarity counts. If I have to choose between students who are really good, whom I've gotten to know, and students who are really good, who are like strangers to me, guess who I'm going to take? The people I know, the people I know. These are questions that we're going to ask. It's not simply a matter of courses and grades. Now, this is more personal. Once you've started to think about yourself as a college applicant, you have to make good choices. And I'm sorry, because I know people are talking to you about choices all the time. Your parent, well, you got to make better choices. Do they say no? They're right. They're right. You see, the big stuff, the little stuff that you do in life, it all adds up. And will have a bearing on how you live the next day. If you're not doing the things you need to do now to be a good student, it means that when you decide to be a good student later, you have to work harder. Put yourself in a good position to succeed now. I've got to tell you a quick story. When my son was in high school, he had an AP class in English. The teacher assigned a 20-page paper, due on April 23rd, assigned on November 10th. Now, when I heard that, I couldn't believe it. Back in my day, that was a 2-week project. He had 5 months to do this project. And I approached my son and said, "This is good stuff. You don't have to worry about the last minute." "No, Dad, this is good." I thought he really understood. Now, you remember I'm that helicopter parent. So what am I going to do? Over the 5-month period, I'm checking in with my son every once in a while. "So how's it going, son?" "Fine. Good to go." I mean, do you have those 2-word answers for your parents? You want to keep them at arm's length. You don't want to let them know too much about what's going on in your life, right? I was hearing fine and good to go for 5 months. I'm thinking my son's got this thing under control. This is good stuff. I never saw the paper, but I'm feeling good about it. But then on April 19th, 4 days ahead of the deadline, I have to leave town for the weekend. And I said to my son, "I haven't seen that paper." He said, "How's it going?" "Everything's where I want it, Dad. Everything's good to go." Must have been in his head because it wasn't anywhere else. I come home on Sunday. He sees me coming, settles into the computer, and start working on his paper. "Don't worry, Dad, it's good." He hands his paper in on April 23rd. He comes home that day looking half dead. He'd been up the night before doing this paper. You guys ever do all-nighters? Sometime around 11, 12 in the middle of the night, the inspiration hits him. And he starts to type furiously, and he begins to adjust his margin so he can get 20 pages out of this thing. He hands the paper in. A week and a half later, he comes home with a bounce to his set, with a big smile on his face, and he tosses the paper on the table. I take a look at it. He got a B. "See, Dad, I told you everything was good." Everything was. What do you think my reaction might be? I'm just wondering if there's some law of nature that says my son cannot get an A. Now, as I think about this more, I've come to the conclusion that the difference between the A and the B in this case was not ability. It was applied ability. It wasn't what he had in his head. It was how he chose to use it. And this is what you need to understand, folks. You wouldn't be here if you didn't have good ability. How are you using it? How are you choosing to use your ability? It's going to add up. It'll make a difference before you know it. As I say, the big things, the little things, they all add up. And by the way, choosing to engage in the process can make a big difference. If you're content to let somebody else do this for you, your parents, your coaches, your teachers, your counselors, your agents, whatever it is, if you're letting somebody else take care of this, you know what? You get what you get. When you choose to embrace the process, when you engage the process, when you begin to make things happen for you, you're going to have a happy outcome. Don't let this process happen to you. Make it happen for you. Next, when it comes time to apply, you want to be thoughtful, intentional about telling your story. The application is really, it's like a canvas, an artist's canvas, where you can put together lots of elements to create a brilliant picture that is you. Don't allow this picture to come out in random fashion. Be thoughtful about how you pull together the essays, the letters of recommendation, the extracurricular activities, the interview when you can. How do you pull it all together to create a picture that projects the unique you? This is really important, especially if you want to compete for admission to schools that have a lot of difficult decisions to make. So now, if you're in 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, you need to invest in doing the things that make you happy. Invest in you, so that when you apply for admission, you can reveal the product of that investment. Every part of the application then will become an opportunity for you to create a clear picture of the person that should be considered for admission. Finally, you need to believe in yourself. Now, we've got about 4 or 5 minutes, I guess I can tell a quick story. This may seem hokey, but I think right now, I believe there are a lot of young people carry a lot of stress. It may or may not be you. But a big part of that stress is you're worrying about failing somebody's expectations. You're wondering whether you can really do this. The story involves Greg. When I was dean of admission, the football coach approached me at the end of February. Hey Pete, I've got somebody I'd like you to meet. I said, hey coach, you're a month late. And he said, well, this kid is an all-city linebacker in New York City. I'm thinking that's pretty good. And then he said, this kid is homeless. That got my attention. I said, I think we can probably make an exception to meet with him. Within a week, Greg comes into my office. He looks like he's been homeless. I mean, big burly guy, good looking guy, hadn't shaved, hadn't combed his hair, clothing's a tatter, and he begins to tell me his story. Greg grew up in a home with a mom and a dad and a younger brother. It was a tough home because dad's an alcoholic. Big guy, physical guy, the kind of alcoholic who's always beating up on people when he's drunk. Mom couldn't handle it anymore, so she basically locks herself in a room. She becomes a recluse. Greg's brother, how's he deal with it? He gets involved in drugs. And one day when he's high, he finds a gun. Thinks it'd be kind of cool to shoot Greg. So there's a chase throughout the neighborhood in the Bronx. Bang, bang, bang. He misses. Greg gets back to the apartment first. He says, I'm out of here. I don't need this anymore. He packs up everything that is important to him in life in 2 big black garbage bags. I have seen them. He says, I'm going. Don't even look for him. Where does he go? He sleeps in road culverts. He finds opportunities on door stoops to sleep at night. He shows me the rat bites on his body. I saw them. As he tries to sleep, the rats are gnawing at him. He told me about learning to sleep with one eye open so he could defend himself against the other homeless people who wanted to steal his stuff. He stayed in school. He worked as a busboy in a restaurant so he could get some food. They'd let him sleep in the basement once in a while. He became a bouncer at a bar because he's a big burly guy. They let him sleep in the basement. He was a fighter. He'd go to the gym. For $10 an hour, he'd spar with professional boxers. And they'd let him sleep in the gym once in a while. You know his favorite place to sleep? The Metropolitan Museum of Art. Has anybody ever been to the Met? If you haven't, you should. It's an amazing collection of some of the world's greatest art. He would go to the Met at closing time, sneak in and hide. When they locked the doors, he was safe. No rats. Nobody trying to steal his stuff. One wouldn't blame Greg for curling up in a corner and sleeping the night away. He didn't do that. He stashed his things and he went out into the museum. You know what? He memorized it. And I know because he gave me a tour. We paid to get in. He gave me a tour. He knew that place inside and out. This is the guy that's talking to me now, telling me his life story. Things got tough for him in his sophomore year. He had been going to a parochial school in New York where his grandmother helped to pay the tuition. She died at age 92. More pressure on Greg to not only get the job done academically, but to pay the bill. By the time the senior year rolled around, it wasn't looking good. They finished the football season. He's an all-city linebacker. And right before Thanksgiving, the principal calls him into the office and said, Greg, we love you, but we can't keep you. You can't pay the bill anymore, and you're failing. I mean, when he gets into the classroom, what do you think he's doing? Sleeping. He's working 2 or 3 jobs, playing football. You know, he's sleeping. So there he is on the street again, literally. He refuses to quit. He gets his GED, graduate equivalency diploma. He calls his coach and says, Coach, I need to get out of here. Can you help me? Coach calls around. That's how it came to me. I'm listening to this young man for an hour and a half, telling me his story. You've just heard 5 minutes. All the while I'm holding his academic record. And during his 4 years of high school, he had as many D's and F's as he had A's and B's. He had never taken the SAT. His PSAT result would convert to an SAT 400 points below our average. This did not make sense at all. Why should we have the conversation? And as we're talking, I finally said, Greg, well, you know what I'm looking at here. Why should we go on? He looked right back at me and said, because all I want is for somebody to believe in me. I need a chance. I need to get out of it. But I need somebody to believe in me so I can make it happen. Now, I don't know about you, but it hit me in a pretty soft spot. I wanted to believe in him. When he left, I talked to my friends at the college. I said, can we try this at least? Enough people wanted to believe that we did. He came to campus for a provisional program in the summertime, and he did very well. He started in the fall. You know what? He turned out to be a pretty lousy football player. Oh, he was very enthusiastic, but he wasn't that great. But during his freshman year, he did a couple of interesting things. There's a piano concert on our campus one night, and he decides that the freshman football players needed some culture. So he rounded the guys up and said, okay, guys, get your blazers, come with me. You're sitting in the front row, sit up straight, it'll be good for you. Halfway through the fall semester, he created a volunteer program. So that every Friday afternoon, before the game, on Saturday, the football team and the field hockey team would get dressed up and go into the city to read to the kids in the elementary schools. Imagine what that meant to those kids. This is the kind of guy I'm dealing with. One of my greatest disappointments as a professional is he failed to graduate. He transferred to a place called Johns Hopkins University. I heard of it. He continued to play football there, not very well. That volunteer program became their volunteer program. By the time he graduated, every school in the conference did that volunteer program. He loved the theater. He wrote, acted, and directed in their blank box theater. He graduated with a literature degree from Johns Hopkins. He went on to receive a master's degree from Fordham University, and then a PhD, doctorate degree from NYU, New York University. This is a guy who had every reason to quit, don't you think? Growing up, the deck was stacked against him. By the time he was 15, he had every reason to believe he'd be dead, because that's what was happening to his friends on the streets of New York. He refused to succumb to what was going on around him. He wanted to make a life for himself. I say this to you not because I expect that you share Greg's circumstances, but there will be times in your life when you question whether it's worthwhile. Can I do this? Can I make this happen? You must believe that you are worth every bit of time and effort you put into your life, your college process, in order for you to find the outcomes that you so richly deserve. I want to thank you for your time and attention. Good luck to all of you as you look at college in your future. Have a good day.